Welcome back, I'm Atenas and this is Mode Bespoke. For today's tutorial, I'm going to teach you how to crochet the Tunisian simple stitch ribbing. So let's get started. So you will need to chain an even number of stitches. So begin with a slip knot. So wrap the yarn around 2 fingers, insert your hook into this loop, grab the yarn behind it, and there you go. So to make a chain, yarn over so that it wraps behind your hook, pull this top loop through the bottom loop for 1, yarn over, 2, yarn over, 3, here we'll do 1 more, yarn over, and 4. So just make an even number of stitches on your chain, and then we'll begin with our foundation row. For this sample, I chained 16 stitches. So now we have to work on a foundation row, and for this, you're going to begin on that second stitch of your chain. So skip the first one, we're going to go into the second one, and you're going to insert your hook into the stitch, yarn over, you're going to pull your hook out of the stitch. You'll have 2 loops on your hook, so you have now cast on. Go into the next stitch and we're going to cast on. So insert your hook into the stitch, yarn over, and pull up a loop. Insert your hook into the stitch, yarn over, and pull up a loop. We'll do 1 more together. Insert your hook into the stitch, yarn over, and pull up a loop. So continue to cast on 1 for every stitch of your row. So this is called the foundation row. We're just going to cast on a foundation row. And once you've cast on 1 stitch for every one of the stitches of your chain, we have to work a return pass. So the return pass is just a regular return pass. So you're going to yarn over and you're going to pull this loop through 1. So yarn over and pull through 1 loop. And then you're going to yarn over and pull through 2 loops. 1, 2. So we're going to yarn over again, but you're going to pull through these 2 loops. Okay? So yarn over, pull through 2. Yarn over, pull through 2. Yarn over, pull through 2, yarn over, pull through 2. And just continue to yarn over and pull through 2 until you are left with 1 loop on your hook. So this is a regular return pass. And once we have cast on and completed a return pass for our foundation row, we can begin the stitch. So you'll notice your stitch is made up of 2 loops. So if you look at it this way, you've got these little vertical lines. So these are your stitches. So here, this one's very clear. You have a front loop and a back loop. We're going to crochet 2 different stitches here. So you're going to work a knit stitch and a Tunisian simple stitch. So you're going to skip this very first vertical loop. So you already have it on your hook. We're going to take a look at the next 2 stitches. So what we're going to do is we're going to knit 2 together, and then we're going to Tunisian simple stitch 1. So here's how it's going to go. So to knit 2 together, and at least for this stitch, you're going to go between the front and back loop of the first stitch, and then between the front and back loop of the second stitch, like if you were crocheting a Tunisian simple stitch. But this last one, you're going to work it as a knit stitch. So you're going to pass your hook all the way to the back. So it's a Tunisian simple stitch here on the first one and a knit stitch on the second one. We're going to yarn over, and we're going to pull through both of those stitches. So now that we have 2 loops on our hook, we're going to Tunisian stitch in this second stitch. So we're going to skip this first one, go into the second one. So you insert your hook behind the front loop, yarn over, and pull up a loop. So let's do that again. So we have the 2 vertical stitches. We're going to insert our hook behind the front, or the top loop, so the front loop of the first stitch, and then we're going to knit stitch in the second stitch. So go in between the front and back loop of the second stitch, but push your hook back and all the way through your work. And now you yarn over and you pull your hook out. So here's that 1 stitch and then the second stitch. And now we're going to Tunisian simple stitch in that second stitch. So you just insert your hook behind that front loop, yarn over, and pull up a loop. So I'm going to speed it up just a little bit. It'll make a little more sense if I speed it up. So we're going to go behind the 2 loops, but since we knit stitch, so Tunisian knit stitch in that last one. So here are 2 loops. Pull our hook to the back, yarn over. We're going to go through that first loop, through that second loop, so that we cast on 1. We're going to go into the second loop, so into the second stitch, because remember we're working in pairs, and you're just going to Tunisian simple stitch. So knit 2 together, and I say knit 2 together because you're going to close the stitch on a knit stitch. So the first one may just be a Tunisian simple stitch, but you close the stitch on a knit stitch. So go through, push our hook to the back, yarn over, here's that first stitch, here's that second stitch, and then you Tunisian stitch on that last stitch. So we have 1, 2, knit, and then Tunisian simple stitch on the second stitch. So 1, 2, knit, Tunisian simple stitch on the second stitch. So knit 2 together, and then Tunisian simple stitch on the second of the 2 loops. So there we go. Now you're just going to pull up a loop here on this last stitch of your row. So I like to go through both threads of that last stitch, yarn over and pull up a loop. And now we complete a regular return pass. So we're completely cast on. You're going to notice that your stitches tend to kind of group up in pairs. So here's 2, 2, 2, 2, 2. It's because we are making little columns out of 2 stitches. So this is what the Tunisian stitch is going to look like, and this is what the knit stitch is going to look like. So you'll see it here in a minute. So we're going to complete a regular return pass. So you're going to yarn over, pull through 1, and then yarn over, pull through 2, yarn over, pull through 2, yarn over, pull through 2, until you complete the entire row. So you've completed the return pass. We're ready for row number 2, and this is just a one row repeat for this entire stitch. So here are the 2 stitches we're going to be working with. Remember that you always skip the first one. So we're going to insert a hook behind both of those stitches, pull our hook to the back, so knit 2 together, and then we Tunisian simple stitch in that last stitch. So out of the 2 stitches, you Tunisian simple stitch in the last one. So here's the first stitch, the second one, you knit those 2 together, and then you're going to Tunisian simple stitch on the second one. And then Tunisian simple stitch. So knit 2 together, and then Tunisian simple stitch. So 1, 2, knit 2 together, and then Tunisian simple stitch on the last stitch. two together, and then Tunisian simple stitch on the last stitch. So we have the last 3 stitches of the row, so we have knit two together, and then Tunisian simple stitch on that last stitch. Okay, so we have the very last stitch of the row, so it's going to be this stitch right here. So you're going to have 2 chains. It's the one on the bottom. So insert your hook behind both threads of that stitch, yarn over, and pull up a loop. There we go, we've cast on another row. So now you complete a return pass, so yarn over, pull through 1, and then yarn over, pull through 2, yarn over, pull through 2, yarn over, pull through 2, until you complete the return pass. So once you've completed that return pass, you just begin this whole process again. So it's just, like I said, a 1 row repeat. So we knit 2 together, and then Tunisian simple stitch on the last of the 2 stitches. 2 together, Tunisian stitch on the second stitch. 2 together, Tunisian stitch on the last stitch. Repeat this over and over until you get a good sample size, something that you're comfortable with, and then I will show you the bind off for this stitch. So I'm just going to complete a few more rows and we can move on to the bind off. So let's take a look here at our work. So once you've completed several rows, the very last row you're going to work on is the bind off. So we're going to crochet a single crochet in every one of these top stitches. So to do this, we're going to start in that second stitch and we're going to knit into the stitch. So we're going to insert our crochet hook just like you would a knit stitch. So you're going to insert your hook like a knit stitch, yarn over, and pull up a loop. And once you have 2 loops on your hook, you're going to yarn over and pull through both of those loops for a single crochet. So now let's look at the next stitch, and we're going to do the same thing. So insert your hook into the stitch right in between both threads, so both of these loops that make up the stitch, and go all the way to the back, and then you're going to yarn over and pull up a loop. You're going to have 2 loops on your hook, and now you just yarn over and pull through both loops. So if you notice this top one, so here, let's go into this next stitch, and you're going to insert your hook like you would a knit stitch. Yarn over, pull up a loop, and then just yarn over and pull through 2. So these top stitches are just single crochets. So just like regular crochet, it's just a single crochet. The only difference is that you are working into the stitch like a knit stitch. So it's just a Tunisian knit stitch and you finish it like a regular crochet, single crochet. You can try different types of bind offs for this. This is just the one that I found creates the nicest, most even border so that it matches that first row. So the very bottom stitches of that foundation row. But try a couple of different ones and then see which bind off stitch you prefer. So this last stitch right here, don't forget that one. You also have to crochet a single crochet into that stitch. And now what I like to do is just chain 1, and that's going to make a little knot there at the bottom. We tighten that up, cut our yarn, pull the hook out along with the yarn, and you're done. So once you've pulled your hook out and everything, this is how your bind off looks. Let me zoom out a bit. So here's our stitch. Now something to know with this stitch is that you can change the look of it quite a lot just by changing your hook size. So here, let me line these 2 up. So this is the same stitch worked with 2 different hook sizes. So these are both medium size yarns. So it's what, size 4? I used a 6mm hook for this top one and a 4.25mm hook for the bottom one. So as you can see, the columns are a lot more clearly defined. So if you want just a tighter, more defined stitch, then use a smaller hook. So here's the back. And if you want a more relaxed stitch, use a bigger hook. So if you're making a lightweight baby blanket, then I would use a bigger hook. That way you have a little bit more space in between the stitches. So it'll be nice and lightweight. If you want something a little more tightly knit, then definitely use a smaller hook. This stitch does not stretch, so it doesn't have nearly any stretch here on the side, so it's not a good stitch for ribbing for hats. It's really nice looking, but don't use this for ribbing for a hat. It won't have any stretch. Stretches a little more up and down. But those are just a couple of things to know about this stitch. Give them a bit of a practice. Try using different hook sizes just to see how it looks with every different hook size. Give it a practice. We are going to be using this stitch in the future. I'm not sure what project just yet. I'm still working on a few, but give that a go. Let me know what you think. If you haven't already subscribed to the channel, hit the subscribe button. I post videos every week. If you would like to see the written instructions for this stitch and many other stitches, go check out the website. I have the link is down in the description box below. I will also have a stitch guide page on the website. You can check that out and then just see all of the stitches that we've done so far on the channel. Other than that, just follow me on Instagram if you want to see more of my work, and that's all I've got. See y'all again next week.